this is who I am. I'm a dad, husband, a friend, and then I'm also a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I don't put I'm a BJJ blue belt as the first one because it's not the most important part of my life. It's not the most important part of who I am as a person. And so when I see others get promoted or find success in their journeys, well, maybe in their tiers of titles, jiu-jitsu practitioner is higher up there than it is to me. Welcome everyone to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. This is episode 100. And today I want to go over ways that jiu-jitsu and podcasting has changed over the last 4 years and 100 episodes of podcasting. It's been an incredible journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here whenever you got into the podcast. And it's been so much fun. I've had a blast. And here are just some ways that podcasting has affected my jiu-jitsu journey, and I want to share those lessons learned with you today. So I'm not going to ramble on any further. Let's just jump straight into it. If you see me looking down, if you're watching it on YouTube, it's because I have notes underneath me. This is a very important episode, so I want to make sure that I cover all the points and topics that I find are very important for this. So the first thing that I've learned is the importance of consistency. Committing to 100 episodes of podcasting over the last 4 years has, really established a regular habit for producing content, right? So much like in jujitsu, you're going to best learn the more consistent you are. So podcasting was, kind of difficult at the beginning, but, it gets easier the more you do it. And you actually start to realize how much little you know, just like in jiu-jitsu. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know about it. Um, over the last year, I've been really consistent with my uploads for the podcast, and have seen exponential growth when it comes to the podcast. And it's the same thing that happens in jiu-jitsu. The more consistent you are, the more growth you're going to see. And we often talk about consistency when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And I've mentioned it before, what consistency should look like in my eyes. And you know, Thomas Brzezinski, in our episode with him on the first time, I think I brought this up multiple times because I just think it's so profound and impactful on how you look at your journey. And what he says is,
One is definitely attendance and effort. I mean, that's a first one that needs to be talked about. Somebody, and I'm not talking about how much you attend. I'm talking about consistency of attendance. That's a big difference. Somebody who attends one time, then will come in 5 times next week, and then disappear for 3 weeks, and then will show up 4 times. That's a very inconsistent training pattern versus somebody who will come in 3 times a week and he will be consistent 3 times a week across the year. And see, they might have the same attendance as a total per year, but the consistency is very
at
different.
the end of the year, who do you think is going to be more, uh, have gained more in their journey? Most likely the person. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but most likely the person that consistently trains 2 times a week, shows up with intention, and is consistent in their journey, right? So consistency is super important. Consistency also, will help you improve other skills like mentality and stuff like that. And it's been crazy to think that 4 years and 100 episodes, and just over the last year, um, has, like I said, just been crazy growth. To give you guys like a stat, half of just about half of my overall downloads in the last 4 years have been in the last since January 1st of this year. Half of them. So that's also because I've been doing once a week, over two a week or two a month. So instead of biweekly, and that's helped out a lot, obviously, right? The more content you have, the more people can listen to. So, but yeah, so that over the last 100 episodes, consistency has really been honed into me, and I've been taking it into my jujitsu journey much more. And also, some of these are going to be longer than others, because I mean they're just kind of like, they speak for themselves. I don't need to dive too deep into it. Another thing it's done is knowledge sharing, which has been great because I have been able to talk to some of the most incredible people in our niche, in our sport, in podcasting. And it's all because of the podcast, obviously. I've gotten to talk to Roy Dean, Jason Khalipa, Chad Wesley Smith, all these people around the world that I would never been able to talk to. Jordan Pressinger, Kieran Lefebvre, people that I probably would have never even known existed if it wasn't for the podcast. So it's been really cool to be able to, grow my friendship with these people and hear different perspectives on how they view jujitsu and the way they learn and teach has been really cool. When John and I first started the podcast, we were the prime example. When we first started the podcast, uh, we thought one way, right? We thought our jujitsu, the way we wanted it to be, was, straight down the line. This is the way it's supposed to be. And then as we started to talk to more people, even within our little circle of friends that we interviewed at the beginning, we started to realize that, everyone's knowledge is vastly different, even if we're going to the same academy, going to the same classes, learning from the same people. Our life challenges and goals and our experiences make everyone have their own views when it comes to knowledge or when it comes to how they learn and stuff like that. So that's been an incredible experience. Knowledge sharing. I mean, I get to talk to people on Instagram that, they give me advice on podcasting or, I've sent my jujitsu videos to people to review that I probably would have never had an opportunity to talk to. And, just knowledge sharing has been super cool. And it's like really deep in my understanding of the art. And it's challenged my views on what I thought jujitsu was. Like I used to think everyone should test, everyone should be held to, a much higher standard, know, these specific techniques when they get promoted to a certain belt. And that's probably because I was exposed to Roy Dean at the very beginning, and seeing his belt demonstrations was like a super cool thing. It was incredible to watch, honestly. And so it's been cool seeing how my view of jiu-jitsu has changed because of, feedback from the community and the people that I've talked to. So another thing that we have been able to do is networking, obviously, right? I kind of mentioned it before, is I've been able to network with some just crazy people that once again, I never thought. Um, my little notes here say, interviewing and collaborating with other practitioners, coaches, and experts in jujitsu have, expanded my knowledge and my reach. Not only has podcasting allowed me to talk to some incredible guests from around the world, but I've also been able to grow a community of like-minded people. And that's clearly evident in the jiu-jitsu Facebook group that we have right now, L Bros. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, it's going to be down in the description below. Go join the community. It's a lot of coolness. Go join the community. The link's down and below. People are posting pictures of themselves training, asking questions, sharing goals and small wins throughout the week, techniques that they're learning. I try to post as much as I can in there to keep everyone active, and people are starting to post more themselves, and it's really starting to become like this small little community and networking. People were even asking if someone wanted to come do a seminar for them, and honestly, another thing that I thought was crazy is there's quite a few black belts in our community. We're at 62 people. I think we have quite a few black belts that I had no idea even listened to the show. So thank you guys so much. I think it's very humbling when I find out that a black belt, a brown belt, or upper belts listen to the podcast, because, I kind of cater it towards the beginning practitioner. So to see them, come into the community and be a part of the community is super cool. And a lot of them don't, there's some people that want to join the community because they want to come on the show and they want to talk to me. And I don't mind that at all either. You got to do what you got to do if you want to get your voice out there. And I have a platform that I've built to help people. And if they want to help people, I'm more than willing to talk to them most of the time. But they're in there actually talking to people, helping people, no strings attached, which is super cool. And networking because of that has, really, really opened my eyes to people around the world. I've talked to some people that I've been like, hey, Rick Ellis. I had Rick Ellis come down and do a seminar in my academy, you know, and got to expose him to a lot of cool people in our academy, and our academy exposed to him that might not have ever heard of him. And that was fun. He got to come over. He's like stayed, about 10, 15 minutes away from my house, and I would pick him up and we'd come over and we'd have barbecues at my house while he was here and everything like that. And it was so cool because that would have never happened if it wasn't for the podcast. And I'm super grateful for that. Now, I might say grateful a lot because, 100 episodes is just nuts. So also networking when it comes to like our Instagram. Our Instagram is, almost 4,000 followers now, and lots of engagement and people commenting and sharing and whatnot. And I've seen some, pretty big names share my content, and I'm like, that is so cool, man. Thank you, podcasting. Thank you, podcasting. So, but yeah, networking has been a super big one too. And then, one that I didn't think would be as big as or prevalent as it is. I'm going to turn my camera a little bit. Accountability, by I wrote these notes, by the way. So if I'm just going to try to read what I said and sound as natural as possible. By creating a public podcast, I will be held accountable to my audience and motivated to continue my jiu-jitsu journey. And then having a community to hold me responsible for what I say I'm going to do, like compete, makes it much harder to back out of things. I when I competed or before I competed, and once again, I talk about it a lot because, it was a big part of my journey now. When I first started about talking about competing, I didn't really want to say it on the podcast because I knew if I said it on the podcast, that means I would have to do it because, thousands of people a month were going to hear me say, I plan on competing next month at, XYZ competition. And which is a super interesting thing to think about because I haven't met a lot of you. And a lot of you haven't met me. And the beautiful thing about podcasting is we create this bond and this relationship, behind audio or video that you don't necessarily get in any other media. I don't think you really get it in watching a TV show, whether or watching YouTube videos. You guys sit here with me for 30, 45 minutes, hour and a half, however long. And, we build a deeper relationship, and I take that very seriously. So when I say something on the podcast, I'm very serious about it because I don't want to let you guys down because, then I'm breaking that trust, and you guys are the reason why the podcast is successful. It's not me. I can't listen to my podcast 6,000 times a month and expect real growth. So, it's a type of dynamic that is really cool and helps me out a lot because, like I said, like if I tell you guys, hey, this week I'm going to go twice a week and I'm going to work on this, then I would fully expect you guys to want to hear about me doing that or about how something went, or, if I say I'm going to post something about the podcast, then I would expect you guys to be waiting for it. And if I don't do that, then, you guys can 100% message me and say, hey, what happened? How come you didn't do this? And hold me accountable for it, because I think it's a very important part of podcasting is that accountability part. I mean, shoot, I haven't posted on a Monday before, and I've had people text me Monday afternoon and they're like, hey, where's the podcast at? And I'm like, or message me and I'm like, it'll be out tonight or it'll be out tomorrow. Sometimes I'm a one-man show now, besides Ben, my short form content editor. Thank you, Ben. Ben does Jiu-Jitsu, or I think it's Ben does Jiu-Jitsu over on YouTube. If you guys haven't checked him out yet, thank you, Ben. And, it's nice to have people outside of the podcast. So I forgot where I was going with that because I have ADHD and Ben distracted me. I started thinking about Ben's YouTube content. Another big part about the community and the accountability is you guys also give me feedback. if you guys, feedback is honestly probably one of the biggest things when it comes to a podcast and jiu-jitsu, because you don't know what you don't know is what I often tell people. So I may be thinking that I'm making great content or I'm doing a technique right, or I may be having the right guest or the right formats. And all of a sudden I could be like, hey, what do you guys think about me doing this lately? Or what do you guys think about that? And then everyone's like, dude, it's been terrible. I've been hoping you don't want to do that, which has never happened, but obviously. But when it comes to like jujitsu, having feedback from your training partners and stuff like that is very important too. And you have to be open and willing to hear feedback also, I think is an important part. And doing this for so long has really made me open to feedback and constructive criticism. I don't care about people saying your podcast sucks, stop podcasting, because that's not constructive. That's just being an asshole. So you guys can go off and I'll kill you with kindness on YouTube. So, but but constructive feedback on how to refine techniques, guests they want to hear, ads they don't want to hear, episode length, all that is very important. So when I tell you guys to like comment down below what you think, it's because I truly want to hear, because if I don't hear from you guys, I'm going to take it that, everything is copacetic. And if it's not, then, and you guys don't give me feedback, then I could be doing something that could be hurting the podcast or the community. And I don't want that. I want you guys to enjoy every moment of listening to this. So having feedback is great. Also, when it comes to your jujitsu, feedback is important, because say how many times do we joke like, oh, it's more than it was more of a crank than a choke? Well, that's actually great feedback if it actually is. Or you could just have tapped, that brown belt that's been, having your number for a long time, and then when they get up, oh, it was more of a crank. Yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke. I got you, man. So, but feedback is very important for everyone's journey, because without feedback, then you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if you're doing something wrong. You don't know if things are working or not, or if someone's kind of like letting you do something. So that's very important. And the podcast has exposed me to a lot of feedback that has made me more okay with my own jiu-jitsu journey, having more feedback. And it's cool too. Side note, well, kind of not a side note. It's cool too when I like see my friends that listen to the podcast in person, and they're like, "Hey, man, that was a great episode." I think that's super cool. And also, my friends are real. I have real friends, guys. No, but like my friends are, very open with me if they don't like a guest. I've heard people before. They're like, that wasn't the best interview that you've ever done, or that wasn't the most entertaining guest, or so all that is very valuable to me, and I welcome it with open arms. And you guys in your jiu-jitsu journey need to be open to feedback, even if it's from a lower belt, because value is value. It doesn't matter who it comes from. You have to be open and willing to receive that value in order to improve as a person. And so, that's what the podcast has done for me quite a bit too. What's up, guys? Are you tired of grappling body hair on and off the mats? Well, have no fear, because we have a solution that will keep you rolling smoothly and in style, thanks to Manscaped. Picture this: you're about to step onto the jiu-jitsu mats, ready to dominate and submit all your opponents. But wait, what's that? Your unruly body hair. That's why you need Manscaped, the global leader in men's grooming. With their precision engineering tools, you could tame the hairiest situations and grapple yourself to victory. Imagine executing the perfect armbar, all while knowing your bald hair is trying to sneak in a sneaky triangle choke. Thanks to the Lawnmower 4.0, you can easily eliminate that unwanted hair with this cutting-edge technology. It's like a black belt for body hair. So to my fellow BJJ practitioners, whether you're a white belt or a black belt, let Manscaped be your secret weapon on and off the mats. Go to manscaped.com and use code ETP20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's ETP20 at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. And with Manscaped, you'll be a force to reckon with on the mats and in the mirror. Another thing that has helped my jiu-jitsu journey and the podcast is, worrying about my own journey. In podcasting, And just like jujitsu, you know, you can see a similar podcast or someone starting jujitsu after you, and it's easy to see the success of others, whether it's sponsorships, followers, guests, or any other metrics in your journey or your podcast or in the podcast, and to get jealous, or to think, well, how come they have so much success, or what are they doing that I'm not, and looking at it constructively, or um what's the word I'm looking for, kind of like understanding, being humble about it is different than jealousy and envy, because those aren't good for your journey. And once again, Thomas Rudzinski, he really beat it into our head the first time that the belt doesn't matter. Focus on your journey. Don't worry about what other people are doing.
The point, I think, was really important for a lot of the students to remember, to keep in mind, for all of us to keep in mind, is that belt is not a target, is a representation of our work. And if we look at it from that perspective, everything changes, because we no longer chase the belt. The belt is irrelevant. And if I think about it in that way, now I understand why in the beginning everybody told me you're never going to be a black belt, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I think Hickson said it. Belt takes 2 inches around your ass. Why would you care? Why does it really matter? But yet it is so important, and we find ourselves in this predicament of chasing the belts, having this huge satisfaction when we get it, but yet they're really not relevant.
Everyone's process is at a different pace, and just because someone else gets promoted or has success that you didn't get, or you don't think they deserve, um, isn't important to you, and it's just going to bring you down. Most people, when it comes in the content creation space, you don't hear a lot of people above talking down to people. You do sometimes, but hate always goes up. So if someone's doing better than you, most likely the person that's a hater is someone that's below you. And so I just try not to think about what others are doing or anything like that. I try to put my podcast and my jiu-jitsu journey more along the lines of, like, this is who I am. I'm a dad, husband, a friend, and then I'm also a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I don't put I'm a BJJ blue belt as the first one, because it's not the most important part of my life. It's not the most important part of who I am as a person. And so when I see others get promoted or find success in their journeys, well, maybe in their tiers of titles, jiu-jitsu practitioner is higher up there than it is to me. I even put podcasting higher as a title, like a podcaster creator, higher than I do as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And it's helped me be honest with myself when I feel that things aren't going the greatest, because if I were to sit there and see, people from the left of me in line start moving to the right of me, and start to think, oh man, but I submit them, or oh man, they don't submit me, or they've been doing jujitsu shorter than me, then I start focusing more on them than I do myself, and that's unhealthy. And when it comes to the podcast, the same thing, right? It's easy to see, podcasts that start after me gain more success, and then be like, well, uh, I'm a better podcast than them, or whatever. That's not healthy for my mental health, or it doesn't accomplish anything. Now I can look at that objectively. That's the word I was looking for earlier. I can look at the word that podcast objectively and say, hey, what are they doing better than me? And how can I incorporate maybe something that they're doing into my workflow, or my content creation to help propel me more forward. And you can look at that objectively in your jiu-jitsu journey too. You can look at other people that are being more successful than you and then be like, hey, what are they doing that I can implement in my own life or game to maybe find some more success like they're doing? Because if you don't look at it objectively and you just look at it as in a place from, oh, woe is me, how come I don't get that? Then you're not going to succeed in anything you do, because you're always going to be worrying about the people to the left and right of you instead of looking forward and then listening to what's going on in your path. It's it's been a journey for me. I started a little bit, sorry. And it wasn't like that at the beginning. You would see when I was a white belt, I would see people getting more stripes than me. Or prime example, this is a story I don't think I've ever heard, or I've ever told you guys. But when John and I were in Japan, there was two classes of jiu-jitsu that were going on at once. It was ours that was free, and then there was a paid class on the other side of the mat that was ran by a black belt. And you would have to pay to be in there. Ours free. Ours ran by two brown belts and a purple belt. And the black belt kind of promoted people quick, obviously, because he's probably trying to get more people there. He's probably trying to get people to stick with him. And a lot of them were military, so they weren't going to be there for very long anyways. Well, we would look at these guys getting their blue belts before us, and I'm like, man, why is that guy getting his blue belt before me? Like, that guy's, I've seen him roll. He's came over here and rolled with us before, and he's not very good. And I would have this very toxic mindset when it would come to seeing these people get their blue belts or stripes next to us. Not even in our class, not even the same instructor. And one time, one of those new blue belts came over, and I was a 4-stripe white belt. He had just got his blue belt, and I like smashed this guy to the point where he got up and said, man, you should probably be a blue belt, and walked away. And in my mind, I was, at the time, once again, I'm being real with you guys. I was thinking, like, yeah, you don't deserve your blue belt, and that is such a bad way to think about things. It's not his fault he got his blue belt. It's not his fault. His journey was different than mine. At some point, you might get promoted, and someone might think that you're not the belt that you should be, and that's okay. It's your journey. Sometimes things in your journeys are out of your control. Whether you get injured or you get promoted before you think you should, or whether you get promoted later than you think you should, you worry about your journey and don't worry about what, those people are doing around you, because it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't affect your journey at all. So just keep that in mind when it comes to what your goals are and the pace of where you are in your path and your road trip to the black belt, if that's your ultimate goal. Another thing that has really helped me a lot in continuing to do the podcast and continuing to train jiu-jitsu is thinking of my journey and how others rely on me to show up. So I'm trying to think of how to explain this. So there's many times in my jiu-jitsu journey or in podcasting when I wanted to quit. Like, being honest. There was times when we didn't see growth for a long time. Our numbers were very low. And it was very unmotivating looking at my analytics and the progress that we were making, and thinking to myself, does anyone really even care? Like, does anyone even give two shits that I produce this podcast? I put a lot of effort into it because no one's listening. And so there was times when we would have a small audience, and I would sit there. I'm like, man, I just put so much effort into this, and no one hears me. No one hears us. No one is receiving the message that I truly believe would help someone. And then I would get a random message from a listener from somewhere around the United States or around the world, simply thanking me for putting out the episodes and saying, hey, it's helped me a lot. You're a big impact on my jujitsu journey. You're having people on that has a similar voice to mine and a similar journey to mine, and it's incredibly valued. And it motivates me to keep showing up weekly to help you guys in your journey. you know and the same happens to show up in class. you know um you guys should think about, if you're unmotivated, maybe switching your goals in class to helping others. There might be someone in your class that you're their favorite training partner. um, they might feel the most comfortable asking you questions instead of asking the entire class. You might be the only person that is the similar body type to them, or even the same gender, right? All these are important. And if you start to feel unmotivated in your jujitsu journey, then think about switching that goal to helping someone or being there for someone else. And you might not even know that you have an impact on someone else's journey until you stop showing up. And then you show up one time, or someone messages you saying, "Hey, where you been? You were like my favorite training partner." Or, you were the only other girl in the class. Like, now I'm here by myself. It's real easy for us to focus on ourselves and what we're going through in our journey and get very unmotivated and want to quit. You're like, "Oh man, I have the blue belt blues," or "I've been a white belt for so long," or "I've been a blue belt for so long," or whatever. But if you can come to class and step outside of your journey for a little while and try to take someone under the wing, you know, that might change how you feel about jujitsu um and podcasting or whatever it is that you're doing. If you think about the other people that you're helping by showing up, it's very motivating to want to keep showing up. It's very motivating to want to be there for them. You don't want people to lose that one thing that they truly enjoy, or that one person that makes a big difference to them. You know, Focusing on helping others and making a purpose for yourself, and that may help you change how you feel about jujitsu. So don't quit, you know, unless you absolutely have to, and by all means do it. But if you're just feeling unmotivated, or if you're just feeling like you're in a plateau, then just change your view of what you want in class. Maybe think about taking that brand new white belt under your wing and showing him some things that might not be shown in class, or give him a couple pointers on ways to be better, or how to be a better training partner, or whatever. Those things are fantastic for others' journeys, right? And I think it's very underrated for people to not think about that when it comes to their journey, because you never know who's relying on you. So just keep that in mind if you are feeling in a rut. Because I've been there with the podcast, and honestly, the more messages I get from you guys, the more it motivates me to want to keep producing this stuff. And like for this episode, I was trying to figure out if people wanted to hear a big name guest or something like that. But 90% of everyone that answered my polls, they wanted to hear about how podcasting has helped my jujitsu, which I think is super cool. So thank you guys so much. And I would love for you guys to comment down below or message me on how this podcast has helped your journey, if it has, or what podcast has, or if there's ever been a moment in the podcast where it's been a big eye opener. I would love to hear that. And I would love for the community to hear these things too. And I'll find some way to throw it into another episode, or maybe an Instagram post, or in the community, the Elbros community page. Another short one, it's helped my creativity. Podcasting, producing 100 podcast episodes, it require, a lot of creativity and innovation, and which helped me to develop, different skills like video production, audio production, and it's helped me in my jujitsu journey too, because I've got to see a lot of cool things. and I've got to experience a lot of different people. So it's helped my creativity in jiu-jitsu because it's made me realize like, oh man, there's more ways to doing something than just what you guys think. Michael Courier in his episode, he mentioned, his job as a coach isn't to teach an armbar A to D, right? His job as a coach is to have you recognize where you are in those steps to be able to finish the armbar, right? So you may know steps A through D, but all of a sudden, boom, you guys are rolling and you're in step C.
As we learn techniques, they should be, we as a coach, I have to teach you a series in a step-by-step process, so that you can learn it that way. But when it comes time to implementation, it's your job as a student to decide which parts of that step work, or which part of that technique works best for that scenario that you're currently in, right? So for instance, if I have a submission that's 8 steps long, if I start at step 1, but like I said, like when you first learn to do an armbar can be 8 steps, right? Eight separate actions. If I try to only start my arm bars from step 1, well, the odds of them completing to step 8 are very low. A guy's going to interrupt me whenever he can. And so it's my job to understand that this specific scenario that we're in feels like step 3, and I can start at step 3 and go 3 to 8, or I can start at step 7 and go 7, 8 and finish my technique. That gives me the opportunity to have a higher success rate, but it also allows me to fail and not feel like I invested a ton of work into a failed technique. So drilling can be important as long as it's done in a way that is productive and not just theatrical.
And so having that creativity and that understanding has from podcasting and talking to people has really helped me out with my creativity. And then also, when it comes to graphic designing and intros, ads, which you guys have already heard in the episode, all these things or Instagram posts, all these things have helped me in podcasting and jiu-jitsu. Being able to create a funny meme that is relatable to people is great. And because of podcasting, I'm able to talk to people about how certain things in their journey are very common, and then kind of make comedy out of it and make it very relatable to people. So that's also been very nice with the 100 episodes of podcasting. Rounding it out here, if you guys are still here, make sure you guys leave me a 5-star review. Let me know if you've made it this far. This is overtime. This is EBI overtime now. So the next the next thing that it's helped out is my communication skills. It's improved my communication skills immensely when talking to people, podcasting and interviewing guests, and articulating my thoughts, conveying ideas effectively have all been front and center for 100 episodes. Even now, I try not to say what, like all these filler words. I still say it. I know I do. I'm sorry, and you guys will probably pay more attention to it now. But taking a moment and letting there be dead space and collect my thoughts isn't something that I necessarily did all the time. And there's not a lot of podcasters out there that do that. You'll hear podcasters do the, so kind of filler words, and podcasting has helped me realize that was one of my things and try to focus on not doing it. And I think it sounds way more professional of people when they don't do those filler words and effectively talking with others to get my message across that would make me sound more intelligent, I guess. Same thing happens when you talk about jiu-jitsu, right? If you're sitting there and you can't formulate or articulate a coherent thought about something that you're trying to talk about, people are going to less likely to take you seriously when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Could you imagine? Let's play out a scenario here. Could you imagine? Maybe this is your instructor. If so, let me know. Could you imagine sitting in a jiu-jitsu class where you are listening to someone instruct you, your professor, your instructor, your coach, or whatever you want to call them, and every other word is an or and or Could you imagine how hard it would be for you to focus on learning from that person? I would sit there and I would probably fall asleep. I have ADHD. I'd be off the mats on my phone. I would have gone home. That's when the whole class claps and no one knows anything that's going on. So podcasting has improved my communication skills quite a bit, and talking with others and articulating my thoughts. And it's also helped me talk to others and listen to their thoughts and not interrupt them, let them talk and communicate with me and get their message across, because no one wants to listen to a podcast where the host talks the entire time and the guest doesn't say anything. I've also learned to talk to people more effectively that differ in opinion and differ in ideology when it comes to certain aspects of jiu-jitsu, life, or whatever. John and I have talked to many people that we don't agree with. We don't. And it's good to be able to not allow emotions to take over when you're trying to have a very intelligent conversation with someone, and maybe challenge each other's views in a very respectful way, or maybe have your views challenged in a very respectful way. I think that, not to talk about politics, but I think that's something in politics that we don't have very often. And I think podcasting is great because it allows for a mutual conversation to go on. And it's something that in life we all should be better at. If we can't talk to each other, if we can't hear each other's opinions, then we get in these echo chambers of what something is to us. And jiu-jitsu, there's echo chambers in jiu-jitsu, whether it's like, oh, this is the best guard, this is the only way to learn, these are the best people, Gracie Baja should be over there with their uniforms. These things, if we don't talk to each other and we don't improve our communication skills, then we're going to be shut off from one another. Also, I've had the opportunity to talk to people from brand new white belts to black belts with 20, 30, 40 years of experience. And it's improved my communication skills to the point where I understand that rank doesn't always matter when it comes to knowledge. You can learn from a brand new white belt if they have something valuable to say. Value is greater than the rank. Okay? Keep that in mind. You can have someone that has a black belt that has a vast amount of knowledge, but doesn't know how to articulate it to you, or can't communicate it to you, or doesn't want to. It is one thing that in the government we have a problem with, or in the military, is knowledge hoarding. Just because someone has been doing it for very long, or they have all the knowledge in the world, if they don't want to share it and they don't want to communicate it with others, then that's lost. So keep that in mind when it comes to your jiu-jitsu journey. There's people out there that have all the knowledge but don't ever want to share it. And don't take that personally. That's a fault of their own, and you shouldn't take that to the heart. Take it with a grain of salt. There's someone out there that can communicate what they want effectively to you, and through podcasting I've learned that it's not the rank that gives them the ability to know something. It's the person. And at the end of the day, we're all people that tie a different color or the same color belt around our waist, and we should look at each other as people first and not the rank. Because if we look at each other, we always say, white belts aren't real people, but they are. They walked in there. Mark Zuckerberg might be a cyborg, but there's other white belts out there that are real. And so, yeah, that's that's communication. My communication skills has improved. Finally, something that I think is super cool is creating a podcast for this long has created a somewhat of a legacy for me, I guess you could say. It allows me to be a part of people's journey and never actually be there in person or teach them anything in person. It allows me to help the future generation of practitioners to learn and build upon in their journey, and then hopefully allow them to pass on some of my knowledge to the next people in their journey. Because all we have is each other. And if we think about, our jiu-jitsu journey as only us, then that's not true, because you rely on other people. And having a podcast and helping people in real life, has a lasting effect on them. Prime example, I've learned from so many people that have helped my journey, whether it's from Japan, whether it's here in Kitsap County, whether, when I travel, I get to help people, and everyone has a profound impact on who I am as a person. And it's cool that I'm able to do that through the podcast. And it's cool that people that I will probably never meet in person have had that happen to me because of the podcast. Like Jordan Pressinger, one of my good friends that I've never met in person. Jordan, you're an amazing guy. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for the podcast. If you guys haven't checked him out, Jordan teaches Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube. Go listen to Talk Jiu-Jitsu, his podcast. He has been an instrumental part of my journey the last year that we've known each other, year and a half. And he's actually going to be coming on the podcast again soon. And he's left a lasting legacy on my jiu-jitsu journey. And because of him, I think I did do better at my competition. I did use some of his ideas and the stuff that he teaches on his YouTube page during my competition. And that's super cool. And hopefully me sharing stories gives you guys information and lets me be a part of your journey in the long run. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for allowing me to be in your ears for 4 years. June was 4 years. June 13th was 4 years, and 100 episodes. I am forever grateful for this. It's so much fun doing this. Let me know what you guys think, how these 4 years have gone for you if you've been here since day one, or let me know when you guys joined. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. Here goes to 100 more episodes and 4 more years of podcasting. Hopefully by then, I have a different color belt around my waist, and maybe I'd be doing this full time. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. And remember, no oil checks here. Thanks, guys. Peace.